All right, welcome to the Gray Matters, where we discuss more than just the hot topics and headlines of the day from a black man's perspective. We appreciate that we are not all a monolith, and every subject deserves to be explored with nuance, giving a view from all sides of the culture. So, as usual, we are here hopefully to bring a little bit of nuance, class, and fun to each of our topics and hopefully give you something to think about. Our panel consists of three guys that are absolutely nothing alike, and you will soon come to find out, if you haven't already, just how much we love each other in spite of our sometimes very big differences. I'm Billy Craig, joining you today from another beautiful day here in Delaware, out here on the East Coast. Today, I'm joined by the usual suspects, both men with a heart like a truck. We got my man Mater out somewhere in Tennessee and near Nashville, and my man Huffer out in the Metro Portland area. Good to see you, gentlemen. How's it feel to know that you have a heart like a truck?
Get her done.
It's been drugged through the mud, so
Really?
you know,
Really?
hmm got to get a good detail.
Man, let me tell you something, man. Every time that commercial come on, my whole family,
hmm
everybody just, it's like it don't matter what we do, we could be fighting. Everybody
hmm
starts on, we just kind of,
hmm
I got a heart, and you gotta like close your eyes, lift your head up for
hmm
that one part.
hmm
Yeah. Well, we'll try not to drag it through the mud, even though we got a topic that is sure to get dirty. So let's go ahead and get into
There'll definitely be some dragon today.
hmm
it. Wow.
so so recently we've had a lot of chiming in on different roles of the males in society. I just kicked the microphone. I'm already starting off hot. And what we wanted to explore today, and the question I'm gonna throw out to Rev first,
Mm.
is surrounding male patriarchy and just the everything that comes with that. And is there one, is it failing us as a society? And like, what pressures are you seeing this role playing in the downfall of both genders? Men and women seem to not have the fondest description of what patriarchy is in society, except for, white males. They seem to have a great handle on this patriarchy system, but even they are saying they're losing their grip on that and they're fighting it with
hmm
everything they got. So I just wanted to start with Rev, see what your thoughts are.
Man, that's loaded.
That is
Right.
loaded.
Like that's super loaded. So let's unpack it. First of all, I think that I come down on two different ways on this. Number one, I think that the way you framed it was perfect, because I think that the patriarchy, um, sometimes the patriarchy gets thrown out there almost like the Illuminati or something. Like it's this thing, that we all kind of feared, the deep state.
hmm
That there these terms that we use, and they're so broad and ambiguous and kind of scary that nobody really actually understands, or for that matter, not necessarily understands. They're not always talking about the same thing. When I think of the patriarchy, I think of a society or a system, which is really what it is, that it basically features uh, a dominant class, which is men that are on top.
hmm
And what I find is that um, the patriarchy doesn't actually serve men or women all that well, just like a lot of systems don't necessarily serve a lot of people well. However, people protect systems, they protect structures, they protect organizations. They are not willing to adapt and make modifications to it. And the reason why I say served is because at one point, what you might call patriarchy actually did serve a very genuine purpose. All you have to do is look at life expectancies. They've always favored women over men. That's not an accident, though, because nobody really wants to nobody wants the patriarchy. I shouldn't say nobody. People who are not being served well by the patriarchy they don't want the patriarchy until it's time to go to war, right? They don't want the patriarchy until it's time to be held accountable, right?
Or
And
pick up the check.
pick up the check, pick up the tab, right? All of these types of things. And then it gets flipped like, well, you should because you've benefited from it and you've been the one on top. And my point is that I see this a lot of times, for example, in the church. Churches die. There's studies that show churches die because they don't adapt, because they aren't willing to adjust, because people are afraid to challenge structures and systems. And so I start there first with it because I feel like it isn't the Illuminati. It's not this thing that we just throw out there to scare people. Um, but I think what you also said, Andre, is very important to understand why it doesn't serve us and why it actually affects men and women in a negative way, because it hasn't adjusted and changed. And that's because currently we're sitting in a patriarchal system that it isn't just dominated by men, it is dominated particularly by wealthy white men. That's how it's been for at least the past several hundred years. Now that doesn't mean much like if we were to use another not an apples to apples comparison, but it's almost like in racism. There are lots of white people who benefit from systems and structural racism that may not necessarily be able to see it directly show up in their bank accounts, at least in their mind, but it definitely benefits them. And I think that men, black men, whatever men, I think that we benefit from the patriarchy, but not in the way that, frankly, most women who rail against it and a lot of these different people who are throwing it out there, I don't think we benefit from it nearly as much as people think. But I also feel like it's incumbent upon not just women, but men and women. I feel like it's incumbent upon us to understand that to try to uphold male dominance is something that, let's face it, in 2023, we have to adapt, right? We have to. That doesn't mean throwing out certain parts of the system. There are certain parts of the system that work. We keep it. It benefits everybody, because, like I said, women aren't just signing up to go to war, right? They're not signing up to. Everybody wants to be equal opportunity until it's time to go lift a steel beam and dig ditches. Like nobody wants that equality. Just like a lot of people, they want to be able to participate in Black culture, and they want to be able to use the N word whenever they feel like it. And they feel like, why should I be barred from doing that? But nobody wants to be, arrested and stopped, traffic stops. They don't want to have that 5 times more, than anybody else. So again, we pick and choose which parts of the patriarchy, just like we pick, and choose which parts of different cultures we like. We all love Mexican food. None of us wants to go out and
hey, Christianity. We love Christmas, but we ain't going to church. I want some presents under my tree.
And hold on,
baby Jesus' birthday, but don't expect to see me till Easter when I got to show you this outfit.
That's right. And I'll say it even more broadly. Everybody want to be saved, but everybody don't want to forgive.
Everybody don't want to die.
Everybody want to be saved, but everybody don't want to die. So the point is, we pick and choose, not just in this kind of broader sense of the patriarchy. Human beings love to be able to pick and choose and select their portions of whatever system is in place that they like. Everybody want to go to school. Everybody want to graduate. Everybody want to be the valedictorian. Everybody don't want to study, right? Everybody don't want to sit through, like in business school. Everybody don't want to sit through statistics, right? Everybody, there's certain things we just don't want, and that's where I feel like in order to deal with the patriarchy, we have to be willing to admit that there are parts of the patriarchy that it's not just failing women, it's not just failing minorities, it's failing everybody. But we're uncomfortable. We're just not uncomfortable enough to admit it and then deal with what the problem actually is. That's my take.
What say you, Paul?
I think women are the backbone of the patriarchy.
Yes. Say that.
I think there would be no patriarchy if women wasn't in the selling coochie game. Mama taught you that you find you a nice man with a good job, and all you gotta do is lay on your back, give him some babies, and that's your life. A lot of these women ain't trying to go to class and study and get rejected and told no and go on interviews and compete and all these other things when they can lay on their back and have babies for somebody who's willing to go do that.
Who the patriarchy benefits. So I'm patriarchy adjacent.
Right. And now it's come to the point in the political arena where it's bitten them all the way in both cheeks. Because you got one party saying men are women now. And then you got another party saying, oh, you gonna do what I tell you to do with your body. So
because Jesus says so.
Right. Right. So what does a woman do in this political arena to hold her own integrity? So I think we're here because there are a lot of women who are still in the child support, get pregnant game. And that is the backbone of the patriarchy.
That sounds mighty Kanye West-ish. It sounds like you're saying the patriarchy is a choice.
Yes.
Well,
it wasn't always a choice.
It was not.
Yes.
It was not all. I'm not Kanye in the fact that I'm not going to acknowledge that the reason that Big Mama stayed with Granddaddy was because she couldn't have a bank account, couldn't own property, couldn't work, couldn't get educated.
Right.
Even though he was going upside her head and had 2 or 3 different families on the other side of town. She had to stay there. She ain't had no rights. But over the last 50 or so years, patriarchy is a choice.
In our lifetime.
Yes.
Literally, yes. Right.
It's a choice.
You mentioned it's funny you mentioned a lot of this goes to the political arena, but you mentioned that one side of the aisle is using Jesus as a bulletproof vest for the decisions that they're making. And they base it on this is what Jesus said. Well, Jesus said a lot of things. They just leave conveniently leave the parts out of what benefits them the most. And when it looks at it, I mean, it still comes down to the golden rule. Those who have the gold make the rules.
Facts.
And for so long in this society, it's been white men who have had that power, still have the gold. They still make the rules. And the issue is, and I know this is going to take a left turn that y'all not seeing coming, but Spike Lee was onto something. The movie itself was but Chirac.
She's Gotta Have It. Oh, Chirac.
Chirac. Where in order to get things done in society, women need to close their legs. And if that occurred and they stood united that way, more change would happen quickly. Because we still know there's certain needs that are expressed by men throughout time.
And women.
And women, but in order to make change, the movie pretty much was the premise of it was let's go on a sex strike. They ain't getting nothing until we get what we want. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because even though she was a flawed candidate, the reason Trump won an election was literally because of white women doing the work for their white husbands.
Then or white daddies and just whiteness in general.
White women are white before they are women.
Yes.
And so after the election, shortly, I guess it would have been after the inauguration, I believe, where like 50 million women around the world
with the pussy hats. That's what it was called. Yeah.
Yep.
They marched in protest of a decision that they made. Like it was the
Right.
oddest thing ever of playing both
They
sides.
voted
of the
for Trump and then went and protested against themselves for voting for Trump.
And so that's where you're saying that women are the backbone of the patriarchy. It's like that's literal. That's the very proof that you have is they disagree with the entire system that's quote unquote impressing them, but they weren't uncomfortable enough to actually wait. We got to do what we're supposed to do. If she wins, then I may have expectations on me. Like we gotta, I gotta get up and do stuff. Like
You messing up the curve, Amy.
Interesting, but you know what's interesting? Because you raised
sit down,
point,
hush.
Even in referencing that movie, Andre, because this is just me. I'm gonna grab the wheel and take it even a little bit further left. I find that even the conversation around this idea that 4 billion women across the planet are going to close their legs until some things get done, I kind of feel like that's part of
the patriarchy.
That's part of the patriarchy, but here's why though.
It just weaponizing sex,
right?
Which is the backbone of the patriarchy.
but I'll take it. But this is what I'm saying. Absolutely, 100%. But I'll take it even a step further, and it's like that assumes, and frankly, even the way nothing against Spike, I love Spike, but it almost assumes like women are these asexual beings only there to serve at the pleasure of their man. Like, how about they want sex too?
Right.
Sometimes if the patriarchy and even people who are railing against the patriarchy, they frame it as though, men are just taking advantage of women. Like women don't get hot. Like they don't want to have sex. Like they don't like it themselves.
They're not biological creatures as well.
Like they don't have pleasure sensors in their sexual organs or something. Like it's just us. Like men are just, sitting around here grunting and groaning and taking advantage of women. And so I only raise that because I feel like it goes deeper than just the structure. Just like you have structural racism, you have actual direct one-on-one, you have different forms and manifestations of racism. You have different manifestations of the patriarchy. And so I feel like the conversation deserves to be had, but it needs to be had with the understanding that there's a lot of women who don't even know why they're mad at it. They don't even understand why they're mad at men, why they're upset with these systems. And the fact of the matter is, you have body, you have like you mentioned this about Hillary Clinton and the election and the women who decided after they voted for Trump, now I'm going to be mad at Donald Trump. The fact of the matter is, what Donald Trump had been accused of has been successfully, and there's been validation to show that it wasn't just a one-off. He is a habitual line stepper. He's a repeat offender. And yet that didn't bother you as much as a woman who supported her man. And literally, and I'll take it even a step further. There are so many women who they came out a little bit after the fact and it became more of a story, but there's a lot of women who just didn't like Hillary Clinton. And when you ask them why, they say, I felt like she should have left her husband because of what he did to her. So wait a minute. You're not going to support a woman because you felt like she bought into the patriarchy and stood by her husband, never even considering that maybe Hillary just like Bill. Maybe Bill got gay. Maybe he apologized right. Maybe they were, I don't know, but it's almost like, and that's why I said I think that the patriarchy is not just a men dominating women thing. I think you said it well, Paul. There's layers of this that women need to go back and explore and understand that you're actually the reason why the patriarchy persists and doesn't evolve. It doesn't change. It hasn't.
The women's suffrage movement is the backbone of the patriarchy. They had a chance to gather all women. And what they didn't want all women. They wanted white women to be second
first
to white men.
Yep. They wanted to go white men, white women,
then
and
everybody
the rest
else.
of y'all figure it out.
Figure it out.
We'll lay some bread.
Is why we're in the situation we're in. They had a chance. White women had a chance to kill all of this at this point in time, because black women they used black women as a part of the movement,
piggybacking right off of the civil rights movement. They stood in the way of the civil rights movement continuing to make the progress it was going to make in the 70s, and said, thank you for the it's kind of like, I tell people, it's kind of like the not the run and shoot. It's kind of like the no huddle offense, right? Like, nobody realizes that the Bengals actually instituted that, but the Bills get the credit. They stole what they were first upset at the Bengals for doing. And in the same way, the women's liberation movement that picked up steam and saw so many inroads in the 70s, they actually were piggybacking off of and were kind of like stunting on the civil rights movement. Because you saw that it worked, but you really didn't do it for everybody. You did it for yourself. And only yourself.
And only yourself, specifically.
And they're fine with the patriarchy as long as it benefits them.
Exactly. So, and if you go into the music, you look at listening to the Cardi, the Nicki, that ain't upholding the patriarchy
all day.
By if you ain't got no money, you can't get none of this cat.
But we will rail against 50 Cent and Lil Wayne and whoever else we can about them and how they're misogynistic and how their music is tearing down the moral fiber of the Black community and how it's so awful that they get all the press and all the headlines and get featured, but artists who
said nothing about Lil Kim
at all.
Well, it's interesting that we've taken this turn. So I'm because I'm a swing this Cadillac style where we're gonna bust the L.
Right.
Ebony K. Williams. You know what? I won't even say anything because the name already that made both y'all go to a dark place. So I'm just gonna leave the name at that. And Billy, it's yours. Go ahead.
So here's my thing. Right. What I'm going to say is this, and I'm trying to use my word choice
right carefully. Because this is on film, and
because
you have a daughter and a wife,
and I promise you that. And here's what I'm saying, and I promise you this does not come from a hateful or vindictive or mean type of place. It's nothing like that. There's no evil or angry energy to this, but it is very upsetting in more of an indignant kind of way, because I feel like we have to have better messengers. We have to choose who, like, and I mentioned this in a previous episode, we have to do better sourcing for things. She is, in my opinion, she is literally one of the least credible people that we could ever put a microphone in front of when it comes to discussing things like the patriarchy, when it comes to discussing, and in particular, and let me just say this for those who don't know, because believe it or not, over the past couple of weeks, I found people who don't know. This is a woman who, if I'm not mistaken, she's engaged to a white guy. I don't know that she's gotten married yet. She got pregnant, like artificial, wasn't artificial insemination?
Yeah, she bought some
yes. So
baby batter and had it installed.
But this is from a Black donor, right?
I don't know. I know what she did say is that she paid for knowing who he is.
Yes. She literally paid. She bought up. Like, you can pay the premium, like they got a premium package for this, so that she can actually know the background and all this kind of stuff, even though they don't have any interaction. Here's the thing I'm saying though. I find her to be incredibly toxic. And unfortunately, there are so many women that are like, yeah, she's got a point. And I'm like, no, she doesn't have a point. right? Because at the end of the day, all of this unfortunately goes back to what's that term? Being chose.
Mm-hmm.
This idea that, you know what, I'm cute and I got a little education and I've done well for myself, and therefore I deserve to be able to manufacture and create
Mm-hmm.
artificially. I can buy my own way out of the patriarchy or into the patriarchy, whichever direction you want to call it. That's the same thing that we criticize and when we discuss incels who are bitter and frustrated and because they can't find a woman. Like, I feel like I deserve to have this
They can
thing,
find a woman. They can't find a woman to behave.
and that is the point.
Mm.
That is what bothers me so much because that's the part of the message. And again, I don't know Ebony K. Williams. I have nothing against her. It's nothing like that. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is the messaging is all wrong. What you're essentially saying is instead of improving on myself to a point where I can be self-critical and self-analytical enough to be able to actually deal with and fix it, I'm going to go out here and basically say, you know, it's the black man's fault because he's not up to par. He's not good enough. And since I can't find somebody good enough of my own race, I'm going to go marry somebody. I'm going to take these measures. But why not just fix it?
Well, real quick to interject, I'm not just to give people backstory on what she said. What made her famous for the last few weeks was her conversation about not Inyala Vincent, who's part of the Oprah Winfrey tree, asked her, would she date a bus driver? And her answer was strictly no. Unless
he owns the bus.
Unless he owns the bus.
And by the way, she has by the way, she actually has parents. I believe she said it was her dad who actually drove a bus.
Yeah.
So there's been different sides of the fence where people, women who are well off with money are stating they don't care, as long as he's hard working, good, blah, blah, blah. That's there's that camp. And then there's the camp of, yeah, she's right. It's about, I saw one person on The View. I don't know who this lady was, but she was like, it's about generational wealth. And so she's dead right in this, that you need to start doing generational wealth, and you can't build generational wealth if you're a bus driver or things like that. So it's been all over the map, but I wanted to get, for people who don't know who the hell she is that watch us, I at least wanted to provide that background.
And even with that too, just real quick, Paul, even with that, what is so, and again, this goes back to what feeds into the patriarchy and how we have to adjust and make modifications to any system that you're a part of. It's not even a matter of generational wealth. It's the fact that people worship wealth. You can build generational wealth with a bus driver who has benefits. Like, literally, that was a point that Miss Van Zant and others have been chiming in trying to make. Like, for years, I worked, ran my business, and literally brought in money while my wife worked her job that had benefits, because that meant I didn't have to worry about only being able to work a job and build a business or something like that, and then actually have to worry about having benefits, meaning medical and dental and all that kind of thing. These are the types of things. But here's the thing. If you value being able to generate $500,000 over 10 years as opposed to $200,000 or $150,000 over 10 years, and that comes at the expense of things like love and support and, certain core values that you have, then at the end of the day, if you worship money, just say that. Just say, I worship money. Like, and that's fine. I don't begrudge anybody their money, but just say that. Just like there are men out there who
you can't say that.
You
can't say that.
But here's what I'm saying. The patriarchy.
Because if you say that, then you saying that this cat is for sale.
And that's the point, because there are men out there who will say, Paul, you talked about this a few episodes ago. There are men out there who will be like, you know what? Why would I deal with this woman who may have great character, great morals, who would raise my children the perfect way and protect my legacy? But I want somebody who she's got a better body. So I'm just going to go out there instead of dealing with you. Why would I buy it for you and you get implants and go down to Brazil or Puerto Rico or something and get, injections or something? Why not just go ahead and find somebody who's already got it? And you know what we do? We make movies about that. It's called Shallow Hal. We literally criticize men for being shallow and call it patriarchy. But what is it when it's Ebony K. Williams? It's shallow.
It's gold digging.
But we don't want to call it that. The fact of the matter, that's exactly what it is. And that's what and then we want to attack Ileana Van Zandt because she literally was like aghast, like, what? Like you're literally you're the product. Everything that you have in life comes from the fact that you have parents. Like you said it yourself. Your dad was a bus, I believe it was your dad or a mom, one or the other. But they were a bus driver. Like you helped them actually become bus drivers. They have CDLs. Like, but yet that's your attitude, and people are like, "Yeah, she's got a point," because I'm tired of being broke. Your newsflash: the patriarchy is going to see to it that you stay broke. There is no choosing a better man or choosing a better woman or choosing up. Everybody newsflash: everybody wants to choose up. Everybody trying to go up. Nobody's trying to stay where they are. Nobody's going down. So guess what? That's not going to change. The system has to change.
Paul, you want to go?
Sure. Number one, I have no problem with her getting artificially inseminated. In fact, I wish more women would do that instead of putting brothers on child support. If you want a baby and you don't want that man, go get the baby out the stove. Go adopt, go get artificially inseminated, do it that way, and quit dragging another man through your mess. So I applaud her for that part of the game. Now, where we get to the part where I don't like on some Chief Keef is I would never mention or bring up the race of the person she chooses to share her life with if she didn't talk down on black men.
And that's
you spent a bunch of time talking down on black men about how we broke and we ain't got this and we ain't got that and whoop-de-whoop. Sound like you was just justifying or trying to validate your choice in the man that you picked so the sisters wouldn't get on your back. But at the root of it, what you've actually done is you brought a black baby and another black baby into this world that don't know their father. And then you picked a white man to raise this baby who don't give a damn about black culture. Obviously, she don't give a damn about black culture. Because if I'm not mistaken,
she resents black culture.
Well, yeah, she hates her skin.
There you go.
There's a lot of women.
And men.
Since we on the patriarchy, there's a lot of women who hate the fact that they have a vagina. And there are a lot of black people who resent their skin. And in the same way that black men are harder on each other than, say, somebody else would be, we're harder on each other. We're more critical, hypercritical of ourselves than we are of others. Women are the same way. There's a lot of women who don't like women, like you were talking about with Hillary. They didn't vote for her because she was a woman, not because she didn't leave her husband. They was not going to vote for a woman because they have no confidence that a woman can make cogent decisions.
They don't believe a woman can lead.
They don't believe it because that's what they've been taught as well. The same way all us black brothers have been taught that brothers ain't nothing, black men ain't nothing, we ain't gonna be nothing but criminals. We've been taught that too. So we see each other and cross the street too. Well, women have been taught the same thing. Women can't think, they can't do. So when presented with a candidate, what they're gonna do, obviously, most of the time is reject that candidate because of their conditioning. And again, we get back to the root of it. They're the backbone of the patriarchy because they hold it up. Just like us minorities and brown-skinned people are the backbone of racism because we also hold it up.
Yep.
We hate, I'm going to say it this way. We deep enough in the show. Niggas hate niggas more than white people hate niggas. Newsflash.
Yeah.
We don't like each other. Except for the ones we like.
Well, what's that Chris Rock joke? Would he say, how did he put it? He was like, he was telling white people, he said, listen, y'all don't like them niggas, trust me, we don't like them niggas either.
Right. And we stuck to stay around them.
Mm-hmm.
So we like them less than y'all do.
There is no escape.
but to stay back on Ebony K. Williams, she's a sad piece of people. I would compare her to Lolo Jones. But I would say that Lolo Jones is a far bigger failure than Ebony K. Williams, because if I want to get my Kevin Samuels meter out, I would walk past Ebony K. Williams 9 out of 10 times. Unless in the 10th time I would have to bump into her and say, excuse me.
Wow.
Like I don't see it. I don't see anything about her that's going to take me up off my square. Now, Lolo, on the other hand, was prime beauty, right? Like if you draw something, you say, I want a girl look like you would. A lot of people would draw Lolo Jones, right? Black, white, no matter what the race, tall.
Well,
beautiful.
you're talking about universal standards of beauty. It's not even, it's not really a matter of race. Yeah, right.
But where's she at? Who's she with?
Yeah, Jesus.
Alone.
Her and Jesus.
Alone.
Don't do that to Jesus.
Is that the patriarchy? Is that black men that caused her to be alone because they couldn't live up to her standards? Or maybe are her standards unrealistic and unattainable?
But even that right there, what you just said though, Paul, just for a second, even the fact that you dare ask the question about somebody's standards being unrealistic, I find that is one of the biggest flaws in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
People act like that's an unfair question or an unfair topic to broach. Like, it's okay. It's okay. We do it all the time. Bros be like, listen, man, I respect you and I know you like shooting for the stars, but that may be a little bit out your league, man. She not coming for you.
Right.
She ain't checking for you. And nobody's insulted. Nobody feels like, why are you buying into the patriarchy? No, the fact of the matter is, listen, like obviously I'm not, but I'm like, listen, I'm a 47-year-old man. I'm past my prime. If I'm out here chasing 20-year-olds, I kind of need somebody to be like, look, man, you can't keep up with her.
The only way you can keep up with a 20-year-old is with your wallet.
That's exactly right. And here's my point. And if that's what you choose to do, that's your business. My point is that only thing I'm saying is that level of honesty. I feel like I don't know why we're just so sensitive,
delusional about who's choosing and who should be chosen. Like Ebony K. Williams really thinks she choosing? Like really? Like, come on, fellas, let's have a real blood raw conversation about her level. What would you rate her?
Honestly, I'm gonna put on my Kevin Samuels hat. Probably a 6, maybe.
I got her to 7.
Maybe
I got her maxing out at a 6. I'm talking about when she cleaned all the way up. I'm saying 6 and change.
But here's the thing: some of that for me, just personally, I'm just gonna tell you right now, it's nothing against her. It's not that I think she's ugly or whatever.
I'm talking about
she's not my brand.
I'm talking about before she opened her mouth.
If I never
when she
heard
opens her mouth,
it drops way down. Yeah, it drops way down. I ain't gonna lie. That's why I'm saying personally, her general, it's just not a personal preference. I'm saying I don't think she's not good for somebody. I'm saying she is not like you said about like Lolo Jones. Universal standards of beauty. I don't even like Lolo Jones, and I would take a flyer on that because that's just she
ain't my brand either, but I understand.
Strays. She catching strays.
But that's kind of the point. And here's what I'm saying.
but she has unrealistic expectations out of men. That's why she's alone. And she should not be alone. How do you mess up being built like that?
You're a whole
being able to run and jump like
phenom,
that.
Yes.
And like, how do you mess all of that up in that beauty? How do you mess that up?
And unfortunately, this is the type of conversation that, honestly, because it's only seen in a patriarchal men rating women based on their bodies and looks, that conversation, it's almost like that can only be had in the context of patriarchal, male, judgmental society, when the fact is that's not the case. The fact of the matter is Lolo Jones, on just universal standards of beauty,
damn near perfect. She's a 99.
Flawless. Just call it what it is.
If nobody wants anything to do with
her, if we were on
Madden rating is a 99.
Her Madden rating
is a 99, and nobody wants to touch it.
And just call it what it is. If you're a 99 and you didn't get chose, there has to be something. And when I say chose, I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm only saying that we can't even have these conversations, and therefore people can. A person like Lolo, again, I don't know her, so this is not a personal thing on her, but I'm saying a person like that, somebody, her mama, her daddy, her best friend, her pastor, her sister, her confidant, somebody got to be able to sit down and tell this woman, listen, you out here messing up. There's something going on. Now, and here's the thing, if she doesn't want to be with a man, if she don't want to be with a woman, if she doesn't, whatever it is, that's fine too. But we have to stop acting like we can't see with our own two eyes what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the problem with the whole, like I said, it's a system the patriarchy puts out there for us, where we just, we buy into whatever the patriarchy feeds us. That's judgmental. That's misogynistic. That's being a gold digger, whatever. Okay, maybe it is, but let's actually recalibrate and decide what these standards are, because the system isn't serving us. It isn't working for us.
I use Lolo because women.
She's a 99.
I look like this, so I deserve this, and I'm gonna bring up Lolo to the cows come home. It ain't got nothing to do with that.
It's a perfect case. It ain't got
nothing to do with how much money you got or how you look. Nothing. Who are you?
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect segue into how I'm gonna close this off. The one thing that has been a reoccurring theme, and it seems to still for multiple episodes as well as this one, entitlement is essentially kind of a reoccurring theme to this whole thing.
It's America.
Now, it is. And so I'm gonna use an analogy real quick that y'all understand. So people make choices, right? And so let's say a person comes up to you, Billy, and they come up to you and be like, man, I got this pain on my side. Like it won't go away. And you say, well, did you go to the doctor? No, I ain't gone to the doctor. Okay, cool. Well, we'll pray over it and, hope for healing.
Right.
I come back the next Sunday. Man, I still got this pain on my side. And you say, did you go to the doctor? No, I'm just going to sit here and pray on it. Like, I'm cool with you making that choice, but you can't keep coming back to me with the same issue and you not doing anything about it. My problem with Ebony K. Williams is the fact that, cool, if you got the standard, cool. Standard is a standard. Mike Tomlin, the standard is a standard. If you chose that standard, don't complain to me that somebody's not reaching. Like, don't dog all black men because somebody's not reaching the standard that you set. That's on you. If you want to have that, perfect. I fully support it. But know that standard that you set is going to be fitting a thread and a needle. It's not unrealistic. People thread needles all the time. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm just saying that your window, you've narrowed it down to this. Cool. Well, you got to find that person, and that person also has to like you. We've already discussed that liking you is
it's subjective.
It's tricky.
Totally subjective.
It's tricky.
So
complicated, even.
Right. So when you come with that standard, that's cool. But don't shit on everybody else because you haven't found the person that doesn't fit whatever model you have to that except being alone. Like because you made this choice. This is a choice that you have made to not date a bus driver, not build wealth with somebody, not take somebody like in the shows that they were talking about. They're like, so you wouldn't take somebody who's hardworking, treats you like a queen, gives you the children, raises the kids, cooks, do all the other things. Nah, he got to have this. Okay, well, I mean, if that's the choice that you want, cool. But understand that's a choice that you made. It's not on us. It's not on me to raise my level to your expectations.
Right.
And I'm doing fine.
Right.
And listen, and you're right, Andre. And now
love in my house. Your house ain't got no love in it.
And here's the thing. And now I'm really gonna set this thing on fire because I'm gonna go straight Kevin Samuels. God rest his soul. This is the reason why didn't nobody like Kevin Samuels. Because Kevin Samuels said exactly what we're saying, which is basically, if you're going to participate in this patriarchal system, you got to know how the rules are played. And the problem is not just with Ebony K. Williams, but there's a lot of women out there, Black men who have that type of wealth. They have been telling you, this is what we're looking for. This is what we expect. This is what we want. And you're not listening to them. Like you said about the preacher, you keep coming to me telling me your side hurts. Yeah, I'm going to pray for you, but I told you to go to the doctor for the past 3 Sundays. You haven't gone. At some point, that's not on me. That's not on God. That's not on the church. That's not on Jesus on the cross.
I don't even care if it hurt.
Eventually, I'm going to stop caring.
Yeah, here's the thing. Why is it my job to care more than you? I care more than you. Right, because you needed to hurt apparently, and that's kind of the thing, is that there's a lot of people that have their mentality, this idea that I deserve, like you said, entitlement. I deserve this thing. If you feel like you deserve it, my coach used to tell me all the time, you feel like you should be getting more plays, more snaps, go out there and prove it. Right, go out there and put in the work and do it. And some of that is just, you have to listen. The fact is, you want this perfect, ideal person. Everybody does. I want my wife to be perfect, but first of all, that's not going to happen. And then secondly, how am I going to expect her to be perfect when I am this flawed? I am this level of flawed. I have to go do the work.
The amount of damaged people expecting perfection from a stranger is wild, ain't it?
And then you really going to go out there and buy something. And here's the thing. I don't wish any bad. I pray nothing but the best for this woman. Again, I don't know her.
Right.
I just find it terrible that these are the people that we're giving the microphones to. And it's like, you really because you know what they say. It's like, sometimes people, they only listen to what their itching ears want to hear. They go with what sounds good to them. It's easy for people to glom on and say, okay, yeah, I hear what she's saying, girl, you right, you got a point, because that's what you want to hear, because you don't want to hear the truth. The truth of the matter is, there is no magic bullet. You're not going to get rich and have generational wealth just because you marry somebody that makes more than $300,000 a year as opposed to somebody who only makes $90,000 a year. That is not how it works. If you can't work together, if you can't trust each other, if you're fighting all the time, if you can't agree on how you're going to raise your kids, if you don't even want kids, there's so many other parts to it.
If she is constantly, or anyone, I'm not even going, anyone worried about things that are not within that person and expecting the things around the person and not within the person to make the relationship work, it's going to fail.
Right.
It's going to fail. Like, you can't date somebody for what's around them or what they have. It'll fail.
Well, not only it fail, it is temporary.
Well, Lil Duval had something. They interviewed him a while ago, and they asked him, about his relationships and if anything ever came up about with money. And he was like, no. He's like, I usually take care of whatever because I got it, right? But I'm not stupid, right? He's like, what happens is, because I take care of things and they ain't got to work, that boredom kick in. And when that boredom kick in, you find out who is who and what's what. You know what I'm saying? So Ebony K. Williams can find that dude, that billionaire. Maybe Jay-Z will give her a date and sneak around on Beyonce and put her up or whatever, right? That's what all these people who say they want a baller, that's what they want. They want a baller who got somebody to trick on them.
Because the commitment don't have to be the responsibility, right?
Right, because let's keep it a hundo. Ballers already have wives. Most of the ones that she talking about already have a wife. Now, whether they do on the side, that's a different.
Or whether or not they expect that they're gonna leave.
Right.
Right.
But that's what she wants. She want a Jay-Z. She want a Birdman that'll just pay for her to do whatever the hell she want to do. But what comes with that is Birdman activities. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Big pimping activities.
Yeah.
So you want a man that has
Birdman was just gonna stay at home,
give you everything, and then you get to tell him what to do. What part of the game is that,
man? But also, lastly, when you reach a certain age and you still single, or you're available, or you're available, there's really this is not a scientific fact, but I know there's a reason. You can debate with whoever else you want to on that. If you reach 40 and you ain't married, you ain't never been married, you ain't got no kids, you ain't got, then there's something.
No divorces, because I understand some women's bodies don't produce children.
No,
so I'm not gonna hold it. Yeah,
but I'm talking about. We'll just say
you ain't got no bodies in the street.
Yeah,
and I'm talking about relationship bodies, not like I'm talking about like you ain't got an ex-husband or an ex-fiance or.
But see, here's the thing. The problem is everybody is running from the same thing. Men, women, no matter what race, whatever it is. And they think that money and generational wealth is going to change it. Everybody's running from shame. If you're 40 years old and ain't got no kids, you've never been married, there's no shame in that because we don't know what the reason is. It could be any number of reasons why. Like you said, some women can't produce. Some men cannot produce. That means literally, and there's no shame in that. The problem is stop making excuses, because really what you're trying to do is you feel like if I don't have kids or if I'm not married, if I don't have this kind of money, I'm not winning at the patriarchy game. So I got to find a culprit. I got to point the finger and blame somebody for why I'm not winning at the patriarchy game. The fact of the matter, there's lots of us who are not winning at certain aspects of the patriarchy game. You don't have to make excuses for it. Stop playing. Stop playing the patriarchy game. Go home. You're a quitter. You're right.
To make yourself happy in this game.
Yes. It's like Little League baseball. We ain't here. Ain't nobody going. Nobody's stats matter here. We here to have fun, learn, and get out here and be good teammates. Like, just let that be it. You're not getting paid for this. The patriarchy is not going to pay you for winning.
No.
The end.
And it's rigged. So
absolutely.
Well, there's that.
Like you can, you're not gonna crack it. You're not gonna crack the code.
Right.
Like,
trust me, we've tried. Right.
Right.
Generation after generation, we've been trying.
Yeah.
Wow. If only. So my APB for this week. Staying on brand with the topic of the patriarchy is, and we've tackled, I believe we tackled this just a little bit. No, actually, I think we talked about this in season 1, but I'm just going to be very clear and crisp and succinct. Mother's Day just passed, and we all, to some varying degrees, we have respect for our moms or the mothers of our children. And we try to honor our mothers. My APB is this. I'm looking for the women out there who are not going to feed in to the energy, who are not going to allow themselves to buy into this idea that when Father's Day comes around, that they're going to try to steal and co-opt and hijack the holiday because they have a problem with maybe their fathers, or maybe they have a problem with the fathers of their children. I got an all points bulletin out for the women I'm looking for women who are actually going to not allow their hurts or anger or bitterness to not be so powerful that it stop us from being able to appreciate and respect the many fathers out there who deserve the honor that they get. Now, I'm going to say this very candidly because I have both of my parents, and I'm grateful to still have both of my parents living. I talked to my mom the day before Mother's Day because I wasn't sure if I would have enough time to be able to talk to her for too long. And we ended up calling her and we talked to her for a while, me and the kids, my wife. We called all our mothers and my wife, her great grandmother. I'm sorry, her grandmother, my kid's great grandmother, who's still alive. She'll be 97 here in a couple of weeks. Deserves all the honor and praise due her. But the fact of the matter is, my mother was not perfect. My mother was not. It was not always pleasant. We had some estrangements. We had some really difficult times while I was growing up. And yet I know for a fact that my mother loved me. My mother cared about me. And I'm still going to make sure that as long as I have the opportunity, I'm going to give my mother her flowers while she's alive. I'm going to respect her. That I don't need to focus on what my mother did wrong. And I'm looking for that same thing when it comes to Father's Day that's going to be rolling around, because that always becomes difficult. I remember we talked about this, like I said, last season, where there's actually a section in the greeting card. When I was at Walgreens, there is a section in the greeting cards for Father's Day for the mothers, the single mothers who have been both the mother and the father. And I'm here to tell you, it's not possible. It doesn't happen. If you don't have your father in your life, guess what? You were just fatherless, or maybe you had to get another representation. But whether it's some uncle or a guy in the neighborhood, your coach, whatever, those people stood in the gap or whatever, but you just can't replace a father, just like you can't replace a mother. So I'm looking for both men and women who are willing to maybe take a step back and not allow themselves to let that hurt, pain, whatever energy that is, to get in the way of what Father's Day should be coming up real soon. Don't allow anybody to take away from the fathers out there what is rightfully theirs. I don't want it taken away from me. And I know there's a lot of other men out there who have really made the sacrifices, put in the work. A lot of us have not always been perfect. We may not have even been good, but we're still fathers and we deserve to have our day. So I'm looking for people that are willing to let fathers have their day without, taking shots.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I got. That's it. Yeah.
I ain't got
nothing to add. Yeah.
That wraps up yet another episode of The Gray Matters. We thank you all for joining us. Once again, we'd like to invite you all to make sure that you subscribe to our podcast. Make sure that you follow us on all of our platforms. Feel free to give us comments, questions, things that you would like to hear us discuss here on The Gray Matters. And as always, we thank you for your support. We look forward to seeing you again next time, and be blessed.
Peace.
So a preacher, a stay-at-home dad, and a rapper walk into a bar.
I am my ancestors back from the grave, no longer a slave, beat to the God's meal, pray surviving my day, a threat to society cause Malcolm showed me the way. I'm young, black, intelligent.
Oh, now they afraid.
It's too late, I am the king, I am the spark to the brain. I am the light that fought the dark and now you see in the rain. I am the thing they spent their whole life killing. To find out, I am the rose that grew from under their building. This ain't for life, this is a fight so you can open your mind. Peel the scab back, reveal the blood and see what we'll find. I promise. Like LeBron, I am just one of a kind. No longer will I accept the blind, leading the blind. Keep it a buck, say what I want, not giving a screaming afterward like Park until the day my heart stops. And when I do, remember when I take my last breath, just remind the tape and witness all the knowledge I left. The great. So I said, a preacher, a stay-at-home dad, and a rapper walk into a bar. The gray matters.